starring John Kirby and Sergeant J.D. Williams from Mohawk Outdoors. Josh Honeycutt from Realtree Outdoors. Also made possible by Swagger Bipods. Gary Force Paint and Body Shop. J&K Used Cars on the Bypass. Segments in part by Big & J Long Range Attractants, our national sponsor, and Renegade Marine. Also featuring Realtree's Michael Pendley Small Game Recipes from Realtree Outdoors, Timber 2 Table, Wild Game Recipes, sponsored by Tetra Hearing Devices. Get your edge back and hear the hunt. And all phone interviews via the Line X of Bowling Green hotline. Get ready for all things outdoors. Here's your host, Brian Webb.
I am Southern Kentucky Great Outdoors. I am your spirit of the wild brother. God bless America. God bless Kentucky. God bless working hard, playing hard American families in the asset column. We are blood brothers.
Hello. 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 What is going on? Hello, everybody. Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors. As you can already tell, Webb is working the board.
Webb is on the ones and twos.
Yeah, I just don't get compensated enough to be executive producer and technical producer, John.
Yeah, I hear you, buddy. Well, you do a fantastic job, man.
Oh, it's always fun, man. We're gonna hook up with our favorite guy. It's brought to you by Tetra Hunt. Hear the hunt. Go to tetrahearing.com, and we'll have Bill on here in a couple weeks, and you and him can really talk about, you know, what you've enjoyed about these hearing devices that are just state of the art, man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, obviously having Bill in the studio is great. He's a wonderful guy. They have an incredible product. But now that Brian had a chance to get out and use the Tetra products myself, being able to jaw with him now that I kind of know the ins and outs of it's going to be really fun to kind of get his take on stuff.
Yeah, it will be, and I'm looking forward to that. But I'm also looking forward to Michael Pendley, Timber to Table, brought to you by Tetra Hunt. What's up, Michael? What's up, buddy?
Can you hear us, Mike?
I know he was there. I don't know if he's still there or not. Hold on a second. Mike, can you hear us?
I got you, man.
Oh, sorry about that. I forgot a button. You know, it happens.
That's all right.
Benjamin Button Webb. I forget them buttons. Man, I tell you, what have you been up to?
Oh, not much. Trying to stay out of the heat as much as possible. Getting ready for this fall. Cleaning out some freezers, trying to make a little room.
Dude, that dessert you made the other day, Michael. I mean, everything you make is insane. But that one dessert, it had peaches and like maybe blackberries or some kind of tart.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
Man, it can't be any easier to make a dessert.
Yeah.
Especially if you got the grill fired up. If you got a pizza stone, toss it out on the grill.
Yeah.
And bake out there just like you would in your oven. You don't have to turn the oven on and heat up the kitchen. Plus, you get that wood-fired flavor. And, you can buy those puff pastries, the sheet pastries, phyllo dough, at the grocery. It's in the frozen food section. All you got to do is thaw that out, unroll it, sweeten up some cream cheese, put a little bourbon and a little sugar in there, spread it out on that pastry, put a little fresh peaches, fresh blackberries, whatever you got on there, and stick that on the grill and let that cook for about 30 minutes on the grill. And that puff pastry kind of puffs up just like its name, and it gets all crispy and it's buttery. And then you got the fruit and the cream cheese on top. It's a super simple dessert, but it tastes really good, and it's perfect for summertime.
You might as well be speaking Mandarin for me.
He had me at crispy and buttery. I was.
But as far as me
sold.
making one, not going to happen. I'm just not a good cook. John's probably way better cook than me. I'm terrible at it. But my wife wishes I was good at it, Pendley, for sure. I mean, I'll tell you, you got some good stuff on there. Are you going to talk about this surf and turf? Creamy crawfish?
I am.
Oh, that looked incredible.
Dude, I mean, you got me excited.
Yep.
That's another one that's way easier than it looks and that it tastes. You set that in front of somebody, they think, man, you've spent all kinds of time on that. It's probably really hard to make. It could not be easier. All we do is if you've got some backstrap left in your freezer, go ahead and get that out. Let's get all that stuff eaten up and get it ready for season to start here shortly. But we take our backstrap and cut it into I like a nice thick medallion. I like my backstrap medium rare, so I'll cut it an inch, sometimes an inch and a half thick. Season it up really well, kosher salt, cracked black pepper, a little garlic powder if you like. Let that set for a few minutes, come to temperature. Get your grill screaming hot. Put those backstrap medallions on your grill. It takes about 3 minutes aside for medium rare. If you've got a nice thick one. That can't be any easier. Just grill 3 minutes aside, salt, pepper, a little garlic on your backstrap. Bring them in, cover them up with a little bit of aluminum foil. Let them rest for a while you make the sauce. The sauce is super simple. The surf part of it, most seafood restaurants sell peeled, cooked crawfish tails in either 12-ounce or 1-pound packages. Get you a package of those. Put them in a bowl, season them with some Cajun seasoning. Heat up a little bit of butter in a skillet. Put some chopped green onions in it. Dump those crawfish tails. Cook them till they're nice and heated through. They're already pre-cooked, so all you got to do is warm them up. When you get that, pour about a cup of heavy cream in there. Bring that to a simmer. Then you turn your heat down. Sprinkle on about half a cup of Parmesan cheese. Stir that in. It kind of blends in, thickens up that sauce. Makes it creamy and kind of cheesy on the sauce. Uncover your back straps, put them on a plate, spoon that sauce over them, and, in 20 minutes you're done. And everybody loves a good surf and turf. So.
Oh,
it looked incredible.
It does.
Michael, would you say a lot of folks, and I'm including myself in this, I do like to cook. I'm not a great cook by any means, but I get intimidated a lot of times by seeing a laundry list of ingredients in a recipe or seeing a chef put together a meal that just looks too pretty to eat almost. Do you find that's a problem a lot? People just kind of get intimidated with the cooking?
People do. I struggle with that. There are some recipes that I really like, but, they've got a 4 or 6 hour cook time and they've got 30 or 40 ingredients. And a lot of people don't want to, or they just don't have time to do that. It takes, pretty much a full day that you're not doing anything else to cook something like that. So, I always shoot for recipes that have, 10, 12 ingredients or less. This one's got, I think, 6 or 7. And nobody's got time on a weekday evening to cook a big meal, a long cooking process meal. So, look for recipes that you can get done in 15 to 30 minutes, an hour or so. And there are a lot of them out there. And, save time anywhere you can. Like the pre-cooked crawfish tails. Yeah, you can boil your own crawfish, and I love to do that. And then you sit and peel out all the tails. That takes a long time.
Right.
You go to your fish market, and they've got a pack of 12-ounce peeled, already pre-cooked. They're really good. Sometimes I'll get them and just heat them up and eat them like popcorn. But they're perfect for adding to recipes like this.
Right.
So anywhere you can save time with that, like that dessert we were just talking about, that pre-made dough, all you got to do is thaw that out and unroll it. It's rolled in like a letter into 3 sheets, and you just unroll it and make it flat, and that's your crust for a dessert. It takes 5 minutes. So anything you can do like that to save a little time, it always helps.
Sure.
I didn't know you could buy crawfish like that.
Yeah. Most seafood places, every now and then you'll see them in Walmart's frozen seafood. And they are a product of Louisiana. They're not imported. That's something I always look for on seafood. If I'm not buying it from a seafood shop that I know, I want to make sure that it's U.S.-raised seafood, wild caught preferably, because that's just, a little better quality than some of the farm stuff, and especially some of the imported farm stuff. But yeah, most places you can find frozen packs of crawfish tails. And if you do a couple of big boils in the spring when it's crawfish season, and you got leftover, go ahead and peel them, stick them, vacuum seal them, put them in the freezer.
Yeah.
Then you'll have them for a recipe like this.
Yeah, it's funny. I love having kids, and you do too, and John, you do as well. And it's fun to listen to them learn things as they get older. Last night, my wife pulled out some pork chops that she had sealed and pork's kind of weird like that. You don't want to leave it in there too long and before you eat it. So she got it out, and he was asking, yeah, well, how long does it last and this and that. It's just fun to hear that stuff because, you learn when you're younger for the future, but everybody gets a little bell curve on SOKY's Great Outdoors because, especially when it comes to small game recipes, because we got the one and only Michael Pendley, Timber to Table Realtree. Mike, I wanted to circle back before we get off here. We got three minutes or so left. I wanted to ask you, we had talked earlier during this pandemic crisis, whatever you want to call it, we had talked about, meat shortage, which there wasn't a shortage. It was just you can't get them to the butcher. And then same with pork. Have you seen that change any?
Yeah. Luckily, it's opened back up. The butcher shops are filling back up. Now, they're still busy. We've got a local butcher shop that I love to go to down here in Bardstown. And, it stays packed. They're kind of running at reduced hours because they've got to take extra time to clean each night. But like in the grocery and stuff, the prices are coming back down. Things are leveling back out. Basically what it was, is a bottleneck. For better or worse, we've got about 4 giant companies that process most of the commercial meat here in the U.S. That goes to just about every grocery store in the country. And unless you're shopping at a local butcher shop, your meat probably came through one of those 4 or 5 companies. And when those 4 or 5 companies shut down, when all this first started, it made a huge bottleneck. The farmers had the animals and the groceries needed them, but there was nobody in the middle of the process. One good thing that might come out of this, there's some new laws being introduced. I think Joe Manchin has introduced one that's going to open that up a little bit and let some of the smaller processors start selling directly to groceries and not have to go through those big giant conglomerates that way.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's anything positive. I figure that had to have gotten better over time. Man, we always appreciate you, but I will say this, John: Walmart and crawfish seems like grease and water to me. I don't know about that. I don't know if I'm jumping in on that or not.
I wanted to ask you,
like I say, if you can find them at your local seafood shop,
best case.
Anybody in Central Kentucky, there's a really good one in E-Town. But if you got a seafood shop close by, chances are good that they've got them. But, worst case scenario, check that frozen section at Walmart. You might be able to find some.
And we talk about these silver linings, Michael, and one of them I think that I've kind of seen. I'm curious your view on it. It's kind of made people kind of look at where they're getting their meat at and maybe introduce them to some local farmers where they just go straight to the farmer and buy that way. Have you seen that become a thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm seeing more and more of that. These farms are figuring out that they can sell quarters and halves of cattle, hogs, chickens. They can go through either get USDA inspected and approved there on the farm to slaughter themselves, or go to one of the smaller butcher shops that's already USDA inspected that are close by. And, they can sell direct to the consumer that way.
Yeah.
And you can't get any better than going straight from the farm to your freezer.
Exactly.
And cutting out all that middleman. Anytime you can do that, I highly recommend it. We've got a couple of really good farms around here close that are doing really well with selling both individual cuts of beef, like you would find at a butcher shop, and bulk beef, like, people come in and buy half a steer. A whole family would go in together and buy half a steer.
Yep.
And, that's a lot of meat. Dad just got one of his half of one of his steers back, and I think he ended up with 300 and something pounds of finished meat.
Wow.
So, that's quite a bit.
Yeah, it'll take you home right there. Michael Pendley, check him out on Realtree.com, Timber to Table, and check him out often because he's always putting up good stuff to eat. Michael, we'll talk to you next Wednesday, my friend.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, you, Michael. Thank you, buddy. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors. John Kirby, Brian Webb, ESPN 102.7.
And McCarty's coming in from the bullpen with no warm-up. I cannot believe this. We've never seen a pitcher come to the mound without warming up. Let's see what happens. Whoa, that's a long one. Oh, and another. Whoa, That's 7 home runs this inning. If he would have only warmed up. In baseball, pitchers don't take the mound without warming up, so why would you take chances with your air conditioner when you need to cool down? Don't wait until it gets hot. Turn to the experts. Clean and service your unit today with Bowling Green Refrigeration, your authorized Carrier dealer. Bowling Green Refrigeration can service your Carrier unit and all other major units. Set up an appointment today, 270-782-5391. With a clean Carrier unit, there'll be no surprises this summer. Bowling Green Refrigeration. Your comfort is their concern.
Okay, gun owners, listen up. You love to shoot, so you have to check out Tetra. Don't settle for big, hot, uncomfortable earmuffs or foam plugs. Developed by 2 hearing doctors, Tetra Alpha Shield is the best sounding, most comfortable, and easiest to use, period. Tetra is more than a hearing protection, it's hearing perfection. Get your edge back, try Tetra, risk-free for 30 days. Call now and mention SportsWeb and receive $100 off your order. 615-618-9904 or anytime at tetrahunt.com.
Watching new movies on demand demands Poston Electronics. Now that Hollywood's skipping the theater, choose Postons for big picture, big clarity, and big screen sound at home. While the theater's closed, Poston Electronics renovated and expanded, bringing Southern Kentucky more at home and on the go. It's what they've done since 1974, just bigger. Forget tickets for the family. Think of what you'll save on popcorn. On Demand is here to stay. For your home theater, demand Poston Electronics across from Firestone on Broadway Avenue.
J&K Used Cars is the place to go when you need a quality automobile at an affordable price. Stop in at 670 on the Bypass in Bowling Green and see this week's special. A 2006 Lincoln Mark LT pickup comes with a leather interior, 5.4-liter engine, chrome wheels, heated seats, good miles, and more for only $10,995. Hurry in because at that price it won't last long. J&K Used Cars with over 40 years of serving the community with affordable prices on quality automobiles. Visit J&K on the Bypass and online at jnkusedcars.com.
It's time to go fishing with Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center, 415 Commerce Drive, Litchfield, Kentucky, on SOKY's Great Outdoors.
Hey, thanks for coming on back. Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors. We got the man on the Line-X hotline, Line-X Bedliners, Roger Gina. Get over there and let them take care of the bed of that truck. Brad Bowles has got one in the back of his truck. Folks, please appreciate you listening to the show. John Kirby and myself here to have a good time with Brad. We've kind of finished our Team Renegade Marine segments that we've done the last 4 or 5 weeks, and now it's time for Team Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, and we got him, the crappie master himself. Brad Bowles, what's up?
Hey, guys, how's it going?
Man, we're both doing well. I know you are because you caught some crappie yesterday.
Man, I did, but I'm going to be honest with you. I sweated a whole lot to get some crappie yesterday.
How's the bite, Brad?
You know, it's kind of typical for this time of year, John. And, you know, the spring and the winter, it really makes you appreciate fishing then. You know, most of my good catches of crappie, every picture you see me, I'm bundled up. I mean, I love fishing when it's cold, but you can still catch these fish in the summertime. It's just kind of tough. You got to be able to cover a lot of water, and you've got to get those fish to bite.
Did you fish Barron yesterday, Brad?
I did, and you know, it's one of those deals. Barron has had, you know, we wondered with the high water events that we've had the past 3 years, well, how's that going to affect the spawn? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, the crappie, they've had a great spawn because every brush pile that I pulled up on yesterday is absolutely covered with fish. The problem is they're all 5-6 inch fish. Some of them even smaller than that. So it's a testament to what kind of spawn that we've had, and it's a good sign for things to come. But if you're a fisherman who's out there sweating like crazy trying to find keeper size and good size fish, you know, it was just a little bit tough on me yesterday.
Sure, yeah. What do you say, Brad, to folks maybe that are new to crappie fishing, or they kind of only fish, you know, that in the springtime? What would you tell somebody that's looking to catch fish all year long, and specifically in kind of the dog days of the summer?
I always say that you've got to have a good plan. You've got to try to get as much knowledge of the body of water that you're fishing as you can. So if you're going to Barron a whole lot in the spring of the year, or better yet, here's the best thing, in the winter time. When they draw that lake down to winter pool, get out there and do some scouting. You can get out there and see those flats because they're high and dry. You can see the remnant stump rows. You can see the man-made brush piles. Those are the things that you want to mark, and that's what you're going to be fishing right now when that water is up. And those things are typically in a 10 to 12 foot of water because of the thermocline that sits up on Barron. Barron's got a heavy thermocline right now, and you can see it on your electronics fairly easy.
Yep.
Anything below 12 foot of water is just not comfortable water temperature for those fish. So that's the starting thing. You want to have areas that you can go and explore to see if they're active and are holding good fish. So get a good game plan from that standpoint. And then after that, it's just a matter of taking a good dose of patience. And I find that in this summertime pattern that downsizing your bait can be the difference in getting bites and not getting bites.
And slowing that presentation down can be a key factor there too, can it, Brad?
It really can, and it's so funny how the heat of the summertime and the very, very cold of the wintertime, the fish can kind of, they react the same to a bait. They're
right.
kind of, I think in the summertime pattern, the crappie feed aggressively, but I think they only feed aggressively a couple times a day. So during the midday or on up in the morning when the sun gets high, your best productive times are going to be right after daylight and right before dark, as with any fishing. But during that middle of the day, you've got to entice those fish to bite. You hear all the time, we sit around ourselves, and we eat a full meal. We don't want to eat anything else, but you put a small chocolate chip cookie in front of us, and yeah, we'll take that.
Absolutely. Brad, you're talking... Sorry, go ahead, buddy.
Go ahead. I was just going to say one tip that I can give, and this has really been productive for me. Sometimes those fish, they want a live minnow. So what I have found is if you'll take, I try to fish with the smallest diameter line that I can. 6 pound is probably the heaviest I would use, but I'm really liking 4 pound tests. I like a real clear line, like a fluorocarbon that's invisible in the water, because Barron can be, some clear water. And then I tie like a drop shot. So I'm going to put a hook. I'm going to tie a Palomar knot, and I'm going to tie a real light wire hook. And then with that tag end of the line, I'm tying a very small 64th ounce hair jig or a 48th ounce jig with a Bobby Garland itty bit. So I put a minnow on the light wire hook above, and then I just dead stick that over a brush pile. And what happens is that minnow is swimming and you're holding that rod still, it's causing that little jig below it to just barely move. And sometimes, man, those fish, they just can't stand that. That small bait profile, that'll get you a few more bites than fishing a bigger profile bait this time of year.
Man, that's a great tip right there, Brad. And you mentioned the knot. A lot of folks... I was in this category for a long time, but the knot really matters because that kind of orients that hook and that bait a certain way in the water, doesn't it?
It really does, and there's a lot of good YouTube clips. You want to tie that Palomar knot, and then you want to come back down through the eye of your hook so that when you pull that tag in taut, that light wire hook is sticking straight out at a 90-degree angle. Now, that it can be a little bit, snaggy, but that's again why I like the light wire hook. So with a little pressure, a lot of times you can pull it free.
Yeah, bend that hook. Here's a question I got for you, Brad. You mentioned fish or a lot of fish on brush piles right now, and this is something you and I've talked about on the show, off the show. But a lot of times these crappie, especially when they're finicky, they want that bait coming at them in a certain direction, a certain orientation, and that's the only way they're going to take it. Do you find that because these fish are stacked up and all oriented in the same way on that brush pile?
No doubt, and even more so now with that live scope. There's been numerous times that while I'm sitting here scanning the brush pile, you'll see like a bigger fish off to the side there, and it's not until you can maneuver that boat over and present that angle and that presentation to that fish, that you get that fish to bite. And what I like to do a lot of times myself, I do have the benefit of having live scope, but if you don't have, if you kind of know where your brush pile is, I like to stay back off of it, say 35 feet, and cast to it and count a jig down. with like a curly tail type bait, and I'm going to reel that and count that jig down, and I'm going to, retrieve that past the brush pile. If there are fish suspended off of that pile, you're going to catch those fish. If the fish are sucked in and drawn in tight on that pile, then I'll go straight in over top of them and vertical straight, down, and that's when I use that little light wire hook and the smaller profile bait.
Brad,
great stuff.
Always great instruction, and what makes it even better is John knows the target questions, and that's what these folks that are listening want to hear. Always good stuff. Let's switch gears a little bit and go to the youth. And it's funny, I was thinking while you guys were talking, nothing I love more is that pre-fishing for mentors out at KOA where we all kind of get together and the little ones are making the cast on the pretend course there, catching the little plastic fish, learning how to use that reel and that rod, and then it was funny because we don't ever get this technical when we're doing that. But I can't believe we're inside 60 days of that event, and it's looking like I think we're going to be okay. With all the COVID, all the things implied, I think we're going to be in good shape. So it looks good for September the 26th. So if anybody wants more information about that, you can give me a call, 270-799-9447. But John and I are stoked. I know you're stoked. We couldn't do it without Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, John. I mean, it's just
Absolutely.
a monster component.
Yep.
My next question for both of you guys, we got a few minutes left, Brad, but we want to touch on hunting a little bit. And, with COVID, the hunter education requirements, that was back in March, so they've had to maneuver that a little bit. And I've noticed where some of that's gone to online. But if you were born before, I think January 1st, 75, you need that. If you don't already have it, some of these young kids and even adults that are getting into the sport. But I saw that where your pre-registration is required, and then you can go. They've even got a virtual range day on here. So you guys have you've circumvented this and made it possible to get that done, right?
Yeah, and it is a requirement. We want everybody to be safe and enjoy the outdoors, but obviously we're all dealing with, a situation with this COVID that, it's making everything very difficult to do. Yeah. So I think the department has done a really good job early on at really promoting, hey, if you're going to social distance, what better way than to go fishing? And so we had a really big spike in fishing license sales. So people really are getting out and enjoying the outdoors. And now they want to do the same thing as we transition into the fall hunting seasons. We don't want that to be a barrier. We don't want, because of COVID, I couldn't get the hunter education course. I couldn't go hunting. Don't want that. So the department has stepped up. And sure, they've implemented this to where you can still go online. Always check out our website, fw.ky.gov. Lots of good information on there. A lot of people don't realize what all you can do on that site. I had a guy that called the other day who had a deer in his freezer, and he's wanting to get it taken to the taxidermist, and he lost his confirmation number. You can find every confirmation number from every animal that you've ever telechecked by just going to our website and clicking on the My Profile tab and putting in your information. So check it out, hunter education online, boater education online as well. So
Brad,
good stuff there.
Can for folks maybe that just for time restraints or whatever reason can't get that hunter education course done in time, is there still a 1-year exemption available for a small fee?
Yes, sir. There's still a 1-year exemption. And, let's be honest, that, game wardens out in the field, this isn't like a heavy-handed enforcement issue here. We want everybody to be safe and to have the knowledge and the confidence to handle a firearm safely when they're outdoors. That's the whole purpose and intent for the course. So, we just encourage everybody. But, officers are going to use their discretion out in the field. If things come up, and you're not able to get it, but there is that online 1-year exemption if you're not able to get the course completed.
That's great. I hate to switch gears again and go right back, Brad, but I haven't played with the live scope much. Are you able to tell exactly which way these fish are even facing with that? Is it that detailed?
At times it is. Those fish, I always tell people when I pull up on a pile, I can tell you right then and there whether or not I'm going to catch one of those fish. If you pull up on that pile and those fish are moving and they're active, and it's it's like a carousel of fish moving around.
Yeah.
Those are active feeding fish, and you're going to catch one of those fish. And you can watch the direction they're swimming, and you can tell how they're facing. If they're just sitting there docile, they're nosed up to cover, those fish are going to be tough to catch. And in all honesty, a lot of times, after just a few minutes, I'm hauling water and going to another pile.
I'm curious, Brad, real quick. I would imagine on these brush piles where there's not current, Do these fish all kind of stack up and face the same way? I'm curious on that. I imagine when there is current, they probably are all stacked up facing into the current, looking for that easy meal to be kind of flush to them. But what about in water where there's no current?
Well, when you see that situation, which Barron, right now there really isn't any current. Again, that's why the thermocline is set up, so much. But they are just kind of around the pile. Sometimes, though, those bigger fish, they'll be off. They won't be there in the masses of the smaller fish. They'll be off at the deepest point on that pile as well. Like if it's something that extends out over a drop, you're going to find that deeper water edge is going to hold your bigger fish most of the time.
Great stuff, Brad. I mean, we're up against it, running out of time, but we'll have you on, I'm sure, soon in August somewhere. And I wanted to leave a thought with you. And maybe we can talk about this next time, John. With the heat the way it is, these bass tournaments, a lot of times these guys are trying their guts out, to keep these bass alive, but it is very much a challenge. And I wanted to kind of get an idea of you next time we talk, what you hear and how many we actually lose. Is it a big number? Is it not a big number? Is it the number that is expected with the conditions of the heat? So that's something to think about, okay?
Yeah, sure. I think that there's some movement in that realm. I think some of the bass guys are realizing in these hot summer months that maybe dropping down to like a 2-fish, 3-fish tournament is a better way to go. Fish mortality is just, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, it's always good to talk about that and, educate people better ways that they can keep their fish healthy and alive so they can be released.
Kentucky Fish and Wildlife, Department of Fish and Wildlife, Brad Bowles, Conservation Officer. And I want you to know that John and I and Southern Kentucky's Outdoors support our law enforcement and our conservationists, man. We love
Absolutely.
you and we appreciate what you do.
Guys, we love you and appreciate the show, and always good to talk to you.
All right, my man, we'll hook up with him next month. Coming up on the Big and J hunting segment, we're going to have Josh Honeycutt from Realtree. Don't forget to go to renegademarine.net and check out what they got in inventory. They got some stuff in up there, so check them out. Be right back on 102.7.
Gary Force Paint and Body Shop stands with Southern Kentucky in this pandemic because they know if you've ever driven in Bowling Green, you can survive anything. And that's your name change? I just don't see a one there. It's just I-6, an entire Fountain Square renovation. Oh, there's a spot. Park over there. And, of course, the roundabout.
Hey, I think I finally got this whole roundabout thing down.
We made it through that, and we'll make it through this. Together. Gary Force Paint and Body Shop. Bowling Green's ICAR Gold Certified Body Shop that works with all major insurance. Behind the post office on Vanderbilt Drive.
So what's the deal with Big Green Egg Grills? Mike Keith here, letting you know if you're looking to grill, smoke, or bake on the highest quality grill out there, you need to see Bowling Green Fireplace and Grill. They have the Big Green Egg, #1 for over 25 years and with good reason. With a lifetime warranty and best-in-class ceramics, this thing is awesome. There are no chemicals in Big Green Egg Lump Charcoal. And Bowling Green Fireplace and Grill has the best price in town. Just off the bridge on Old Louisville Road. BowlingGreenFireplace.com.
The sounds of summer. We're more grateful for them now than ever. Willow Oaks Golf Club is putting your family first when it comes to health and safety. Willow Oaks is thankful to provide the opportunity to have fun, memorable moments while social distancing. Willow Oaks offers a beautiful golf course, restaurant, and now you and your family can enjoy the swimming pool. Become a member today at Willow Oaks Golf Club. Please contact Willow Oaks with any questions. 270-308-OAKS.
If you're a single man under the age of 35, you'd probably like to know what the ladies are looking for on an online dating site. A guy who had a few drinks and later got pulled over for buzzed driving. See, that could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. And doesn't a guy who's back living with his parents but calls them my roommates just scream Mr. Right?
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Yeah, thanks for coming on back. John Kirby in the studio, Brian Webb here, technically producing tonight, which is no fun for me. But I've done all right tonight, so I feel good about it. On the Line-X hotline, let's don't keep him waiting. Josh and John always got some awesome tidbits here on the show, and we brought to you by Big and J Long Range Attractants. Now's the time, John, to get on that Big and J. Get that aerosol, man. I got some on the way, so we're going to be doing a giveaway here pretty soon. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, they're doing free shipping right now, if I'm not mistaken. So a good chance to take advantage of that.
Yeah, jump on that. We're going to jump, since that's the theme for this one, jump to Realtree's Josh Honeycutt amongst many other things that he does. Josh, how are you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Man, we're doing great, man. I'm looking forward to listening to you guys always.
Josh, you got a cool little topic, man. I'm looking forward to hearing about accessing whitetails via boat.
Yeah, it's not something I've done a terrible, a whole lot of, but it is something that I've dabbled in,
Yep.
and it's a fun deal.
Absolutely, man. And man, if you want like instant street cred too, kill a deer like with the aid of a canoe or something and get a picture of you paddling the canoe off through the fog with a big mature whitetail in the front of that canoe.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Man, those pictures always just captivate me. I love that kind of stuff. So what do you got for us, man?
Yeah, I mean, there's very few people, deploy the method. And again, like I said, I've not done very much of it myself. I've done very little. But it is something that people can do to really increase the odds of success. It opens up, other methods of access. There's a lot of reasons to do it. Obviously, you want to do it safely because there's anytime you introduce a boat and water, things can get dicey in a hurry. So it's, maybe not the safest thing to do. I think it is safe as long as you do it properly. But, there's a lot of things about it that really are advantageous to the hunters, such as opening up access to places they might not have been able to get to before, such as islands on lakes, landlocked pieces of public that may not be accessible except by river or stream or something like that. There's just a lot of different reasons to do it.
Yeah, when I think about doing this, Josh, I primarily kind of think in my mind goes towards hunting public land, but that it doesn't have to be public land. This can also pertain to folks that hunt private, that borders a lake, river, stream, whatever, like you mentioned there. And yeah, man, it can really be beneficial in a lot of ways. But like you said, kind of that entry and exit, that can be a huge advantage of it, can it?
Yeah, and a lot of deer, most deer aren't expecting you to do that. So, if you have a stand that's close to water, and you're able to access by boat or kayak or canoe or something else, if you're able to slip in there and get most of the way or get at least relatively close to it, deer aren't expecting hunters to do that. That it takes, it'll take them by surprise. And it's just something that you can do to really kind of stay off their radar, and it reduces your footprint and definitely reduces ground scent. Again, deer just don't really think of hunters doing that. They don't expect that. So, they aren't necessarily looking for, for hunters to come from that direction, especially, hunting properties, whether they're private or public, that are bordered or dissected or whatever it might be. As long as there's water that it's adjacent to them, deer just don't expect hunters to come from there. And, there's a lot of different ways that hunters can take advantage of water access, and it's not just by boat either. You can even access hunting spots with waders, for that matter. And, you can use, personally, something that I do a lot of, on just most of the properties that I hunt that have, shallow streams and creeks, is I will actually access stand locations by walking through those creeks and streams because, you have just about virtually no ground scent whenever you're walking through a stream. So, you can even do it with waders. You can, obviously all the way up to boats with motors on them and props, but it's definitely advantageous but it is a little bit different from with the different water types, because you have streams, creeks, swamps, rivers, lakes, And somebody else that I want to talk about that I have no personal experience with, but you can also access hunting spots by ocean. Now, that's obviously not something people in Kentucky do, but, you know, it might be something that they're interested in. There's a group that hunts a lot up and down the East Coast. That they hunt islands in the Atlantic Ocean, and they've recently shared some pretty cool information with me as well.
Ooh, that sounds really neat. Yeah, kind of going back, Josh, you made a great point about how these deer just do not expect hunters to come in from that way, and that's pretty much what I've found. All the deer that I've hunted that back up to creeks or rivers, they really kind of use that creek or river as a barrier. In my experience, they really use that to their advantage and use that to cover their back. They use that as a barrier almost. That's kind of what I've found. So a great point there. Yeah, and also you mentioned, you know, using waders. You know, you can even just use the creek or riverbank itself and access that way. That's going to help you kind of slip in and slip out. That's what I did last year to kill one of the deer, or my Kentucky deer.
Yeah, it allows you to get to stand locations much, I wouldn't say easier, but they're definitely more low impact, and they apply less pressure more times than not. Every situation is different, but it's definitely doable. As far as the different types, we're talking about waders. You know, you can use waders to traverse, those waters that are, waist deep or less. Obviously, if you're carrying a bunch of hunting gear and you got a pack on your back, you're not going to want to be in belly or chest high waters because you're going to get a bunch of wet gear. But, if it's below the waist, definitely below the knee, a pair of, hip waders or regular waders or whatever, can definitely help hunters get from the truck to the tree stand as long as they map out their, entry routes and exit routes accordingly. But definitely it has to make sense. I wouldn't say that, just because there's a stream there or a creek there that you should do it. It all depends on how the property lays out. Sometimes deer bed right on those creeks. Some properties, they don't. So it really just depends on a case-by-case scenario. And if it makes sense, then hunters should probably do it. And if it doesn't make sense, then obviously don't.
Guys, always a lot of fun. Josh, we're going to take a break, pay some sponsors, man, and we'll be right back with Josh Honeycutt and John Kirby, two of the best to get it done and give you some great instructions. So don't go anywhere. Stick around. We'll be right back. 102.7.
It's been a few months since you hired a lawyer for your injury case. You hired that lawyer without much thought or research. An ad that caught your eye. A friend told you about them. Or worse, they called you, which would have them disbarred if they were caught. I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. And now you realized you made a huge mistake by hiring the wrong lawyer. Your gut tells you your case is worth way more, but your lawyer's trying to cram a settlement offer down your throat because they need the money more than you do. And then you go to forthepeople.com and see offers made and rejected and our jury verdicts. Hundreds of them. You got to see what your case should really be worth. Here's the thing. Just because you hired a lawyer doesn't mean you can't fire that lawyer. People call us every day doing exactly that, and it won't cost you one penny more. You only have one day in court. There's only one Morgan & Morgan, forthepeople.com. Dial pound law on your cell. Pound law, that's all.
All cases handled by our Kentucky licensed attorneys.
Not all spray-in is created equal. For example, spray-in honey. Why are all these bees following me? Or maybe spray-in tanning.
Hey, you missed a spot there on your face. Oh, that's bad.
See Line-X of Bowling Green for spray-in bed liners and Line-X truck gear. It's the next level of complete tough gear for your truck. B&W gooseneck hitches, toolboxes, step bars, and WeatherTech doormats. Gift cards now available. Easy, affordable, and rugged. Line-X. Check out more at linexofbowlinggreen.com.
Can you hear the hunt? You will with Tetra. Designed by hearing doctors and avid hunters, Tetra offers premium hearing enhancement and protection. Programmed for your specific hearing loss. Endpoint turkeys gobbling, the big buck slipping behind you, or protect your ears in the duck blind. If you want your edge back, try Tetra risk-free for 30 days. Call now and mention SportsWeb and receive $100 off your order. 615-618-9904 or anytime at TetraHunt.com. Tetra isn't just hearing protection, it's hearing perfection. It's summer, and Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center loves seeing everyone on the water with a smile. However, with so many sales and happy customers, coupled with the current backlog of new party cruisers and bass boats, our inventory is low compared to normal, but our morale is high. Thank you for your business, but most of all, your trust and loyalty to Renegade Marine and Outdoor Center. We appreciate everyone's patience and patronage. With high call volume and inventory harder to stock, rest assured our staff is doing all they can to serve our clients at 415 Commerce Drive in Litchfield. Call 270-259-0001, online at renegademarine.net.
Gary Force Paint and Body Shop stands with Southern Kentucky in this pandemic because they know if you've ever driven in Bowling Green, you can survive anything. A natural name change? I just don't see a one there. It's just I-6, an entire Fountain Square renovation. Oh, there's a spot. Park over there. And, of course, the roundabout.
Hey, I think I finally got this whole roundabout thing down.
We made it through that, and we'll make it through this. Together. Gary Force Paint and Body Shop, Bowling Green's iCar Gold Certified body shop that works with all major insurance, behind the post office on Vanderbilt Drive. Watching new movies on demand demands Poston Electronics. Now that Hollywood's skipping the theater, choose Postons for big picture, big clarity, and big screen sound at home. While the theater's closed, Poston Electronics renovated and expanded, bringing Southern Kentucky more at home and on the go. It's what they've done since 1974, just bigger. Forget tickets for the family. Think of what you'll save on popcorn. On Demand is here to stay. For your home theater, demand Poston Electronics across from Firestone on Broadway Avenue.
Thanks for tuning back in. Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Usually Reds are playing, and they got off to a good start, John, but I haven't fared too well. I lost by one run the other night. Kind of back to the normal Reds.
Yeah, I saw that, man. How weird is it watching with no spectators?
It is weird, but I think somebody's going to get Josh Honeycutt, John Kirby, Brian Webb, cardboard cutouts to set behind the plate, so that'll make it more fun to watch. They're $75 a piece, Josh. We got to get that, and we got to get that sponsored, buddy.
There you go.
Josh, man, you pick up where we left off there. I will say you mentioned safety is a big priority and something that can help. If you are looking to just cross a creek or make a short crossing, be aware of the current. Current can lead to bad things quick. But using a wading staff or a trekking pole of some sort could be a big benefit doing something like that, couldn't it, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're in boats or kayaks or canoes, any kind of watercraft, definitely wear a life jacket at all times. Have other safety gear. You know, if you're on big waters where you could, and it's not uncommon, especially if you're on big lakes. It's not really going to be as much of a thing here in Kentucky. But if you're ever hunting on a big water somewhere, such as a major lake, or if you end up doing what the Seabucks crew, and that's the crew I was talking about earlier, the guys that I mentioned as far as hunting the Atlantic Ocean. If you haven't looked at that hunting show, check out Seabucks. It's pretty neat. But those guys, they'll hunt islands out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean off the East Coast, and if you're hunting, or on big waters, you can sometimes even get to the point where you can barely see shoreline. So, and I don't have any experience with that myself, but talking with the Seabucks guys that are on that show, it's a pretty interesting concept. And if you're that hardcore and you're going to that extreme, you need even more safety gear such as navigation and backup GPSs and lights and backup lights and all kinds of extra gear that you might not necessarily need if you're hunting, by boat along, small lakes and rivers and stuff like that. But safety for sure. You gotta. It's a priority number one.
Yeah, even hunting smaller lakes like Barron. Barron's I think 10,000. 10,000, square miles maybe? Or 1,000 square miles, something like that. But not a huge lake, but definitely, man, the winds kick up. You can get some swells on that lake, and even more so Kentucky Lake or Barkley. If you get a north or south wind that's running up and down that lake can get treacherous really quick. And with bow hunting, Josh, we know you got to have a lot of equipment, and that adds weight to the vessel. And so, yeah, like Josh says, man, that's safety is utmost importance for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. But, just personally, if you're trying to hunt low impact, if you're hunting a property that is, either it has a lot of hunters on it or, maybe the surrounding area gets a lot of pressure, or you're just trying to limit the pressure yourself on the property that you hunt, using those water access, points is a really good way to do that because, especially if you decide to hang tree stands or hunt from locations that are really close to those waterways you're using to navigate by. Even if, again, you're just wearing waders and walking through a stream that's a few inches deep. If you're hunting close to those water sources, it really cuts down because one of the bigger factors that most people don't think about is the ground scent you leave behind is one of the bigger aspects of hunting pressure. It's not what you spook while you're in the tree stand. It's what comes through and realizes that you've been there after you're gone. So, if you're trying to reduce the impact of the property that you're hunting on, whether it's private or public, being able to hunt locations that are close to that water source that you're using to navigate by and to get from A to B by, that is just, again, is one of the biggest aspects. And, it's something that hunters, if they can take advantage of it and do so safely, they certainly should.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had that brain freeze, Brian. 10,000 acres. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Man, I'm going to blame it on COVID-19,
That's exactly what did it.
Yep. Yeah, good point there, Josh. The lack of ground scent, man, that's huge. It's something we talk about a lot on this show. Yeah, good stuff. What else you got as far as accessing these bucks with a vessel?
There's properties that I've hunted throughout the years, and again, and this is the biggest, in my opinion. Maybe it's not as relevant to everyone as perhaps the fact that you can use water to cut down on ground scent wherever you hunt, as long as there's a stream or something on the property. But I would say outside of that, the next biggest thing is the fact that it opens up so many opportunities. I've hunted a lot of public lands, and most of them aren't landlocked. You can access them from a road, from whatever. They're just easy to get to. But there's some properties that I've hunted, and one comes to mind that I've been on in the past and scouted. You cannot access it except for by boat because there is a river that splits. And it's a pretty big place. It's probably 1,000 acres or so. And I'm not going to give my secret away in the coordinates because it's a pretty cool place. But if you find it on your own, then good for you guys. But it's a public land that is surrounded by a river that splits, and you cannot access it except by boat. So, accessing by boat, by canoe, by kayak, again, and I stress the safety, as long as it's done safely, it can open up so many opportunities that you otherwise might not be able to, access.
Yeah, that's a great point, Josh. And there is a couple of places on Barren River Lake that you can only access the public land by boat unless you get permission from a landowner and you're able to cross through their property onto the public land. But yeah, like you said, Josh, when you find a place like that, it's usually going to be pretty decent. If the habitat's decent and there's some deer there, it's going to be some good hunting because you've eliminated a big chunk of potential pressure there, haven't you?
Yes, and the bigger thing, and the biggest aspect is the fact that deer will, they might not be in those areas that are really secluded like that are cut off from society, so to speak, that are cut off from the mainland, if you want to put it that way. These secluded pockets of public ground or private or whatever it is, if they're surrounded by water and the only way to get to them is by boat, while the deer might not be there throughout the bulk of the year, they might not even be there during the early season, but come maybe the rut or even after the rut or definitely by the late season, those secluded islands, for lack of a better term, that are surrounded by water, whether they're 10 acres or, 1,000 acres. A lot of your bigger deer are going to suck into there from the local area because they know they don't really get any hunting pressure there, and they're going to escape, hunters by going to such places. So you might not see a huge deer density in such places as that, but the odds of seeing a big deer do definitely go up.
Man, that's a good point there, Josh. And I would say a lot of folks scout areas like that, and they don't see the tons of rut sign and other kind of sign, and so they kind of give up on it. But like you mentioned, during the rut, post-gun season, when these deer are pressured, these deer, especially these older age class deer, will suck into places like that because exactly what Josh said, there's a lack of hunting pressure there.
Yeah, and if you're able to go in there during the late season, and it might take a couple of seasons to figure the place out,
right,
especially if it's a big property. My best advice is try to find these remote locations that are, and if you don't, if the water aspect of it gets you and you don't want to do that, you can still, follow the concept. But the whole thing is you got to work to get to them, whether you got to walk 5 miles or boat in a couple of miles or whatever it might be. When you find a location, whether it's private or public, that you have to work to get to, and other hunters have to work to get to, you're going to see a higher, older age, probably, well, I shouldn't say always, but generally you're going to see an older age class structure of bucks because the deer know that. And while they might not be there year-round, as previously mentioned, after you said, after gun season, during the late season, if you're willing to work, again, whether that's walking 5 miles or boating to get there, you can definitely reap the rewards. So find one of those places, whether it's in-state, whether it's out-of-state, use maps to find these spots preliminarily, then go scout them. It might take you a couple of seasons, maybe take you multiple seasons, it may take you 3 or 4 years to figure them out and really dial in on them. But it's better to do that, in my opinion, than to constantly ping-pong around and bounce around from place to place. But again, it can be fun. Again, stressing the safety factor, it can be a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. Bunch of great points there, Josh. Anything else to kind of put a bow on the topic? I think we've got about 5 minutes left, buddy.
We got about 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah, don't try to haul out a deer in a kayak. That's my primary advice as far as that goes. It's in my experience, it's been much easier, and people that I've talked to, it's much easier to haul out a deer in a canoe versus a kayak. And make sure that your gear is up for the task. If you're going along a major river or a deep river, or if you're potentially having to deal with rough waters, you definitely want to make sure that your gear is up for the task at hand. So
yeah,
if it's only a 3, 4, 5 inch deep stream, waders is all you need. If you're going through a shallow creek or a very shallow river, you can probably get away with a canoe or kayak. But if you're dealing with deeper waters, you definitely want to have better gear, an actual boat with probably a motor and a trolling motor on it. Definitely something with a hole that can withstand it. But just make sure that you match your gear to the task at hand, and always have a life jacket and have all the required safety gear, regardless of what route you end up going.
Yeah, absolutely, Josh. I've duck hunted the majority of my life, and being on the water in the winter, things are fine until they're not, and that happens really quick on the water. Situations can turn bad quick, so having those contingency plans and the proper safety gear is of huge importance, like Josh mentioned.
Yeah, and for sure, if you're wearing if you're on a boat, and don't wear waders on a boat. That's the worst thing you could do.
Absolutely.
Because if you do, and don't wear waders anywhere near deep water, because it's easy for those waders to fill up, and then if they fill up, you're going to the bottom with them. So never wear waders in deeper waters or in a boat over deep waters. That's a recipe for disaster, among many other mistakes that people could potentially make.
Man, well said, guys. Always great stuff out of both of you. And we want to make sure to get this out. If anybody sees a gray kitty, its name is Soda Pop. It might be around the Campbell Lane area over by Coles. You can give me a call, 270-799-9447. Really pretty cat. Gray, been lost for about a week. There's a cash reward for that deep river. Good stuff right there, Josh Honeycutt. Appreciate you, man. We'll see you next Wednesday, buddy.
Thank you.
John Kirby,
Thanks, Josh.
see you next Wednesday. Thanks for
Absolutely,
listening to Southern Kentucky's Great Outdoors, ESPN 102.7.